republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call?
Trustee Sierra? Here. Trustee Jeffberger?
Here.
Trustee Grimm?
Here.
Township Manager? Administrator, sorry. Chief of Fire?
Here.
Chief of Police?
Here.
Superintendent of Public Works?
Here.
President. Yeah.
Our next meeting is February 16th, 2023 at 999 Chambers Road at 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda with flexibility.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Jeffberger?
Yes. On to board priorities discussion.
Can we, I added that, can we just bump it forward? I apologize, I wanted to have it as a little whiteboard or something for us, so I'm just gonna put it back on here. It's not in time.
All right. So February is Human Relations Month. As many of you remember from last month, I had the idea to kind of celebrate something big each month. So Human Relations Month is a month to cherish our uniqueness and how these types of things make us stronger for the better, as well as celebrating the noble values of social justice, equality, and diversity that support human relationships. So I know that Deborah has already kind of introduced this on our social media. And I absolutely thank Deborah for everything she did in January for the month that we chose then. So I look forward to the types of posts that we'll have in February. And that's all I have to say. On to the fiscal officer.
Request a motion to approve the monthly bills.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Jeffberger?
Yes.
Request a motion to approve payroll.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Jeffberger?
Yes.
Request a motion to approve the January 19th meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Jeffberger?
Yes.
So the next item is the investments. The monthly interest rates are pretty good in Star, Ohio right now. Meter manages most of our investment portfolio, and we had a call with them recently, and I knew that the interest rates were really great in Star, Ohio, and our folks at Meter suggested we move money from the checking account to Star. So the board is used to giving me permission to do that. I'm kind of learning it's not necessarily necessary to get a motion, but I'm happy to do that again because that's what we're used to doing. So I guess I would word this as I would request a motion to move up to $3 million from the checking account to Star, Ohio this month. It might change a little bit, but not more than $3 million.
I politely abstain from this conversation.
Yes, as always, Trustee Grimm with her job can't weigh in on these decisions.
Okay, I'm gonna say so moved.
Okay.
Second?
All right. Trustee Sierra?
Did you have any discussion? No. Okay. Yes.
And Trustee Jeffberger.
Yes. Thank you. Committee and team reports.
Clinton Township Community Health Action Team, our produce market update from January 27th, 23. We had 10,500 pounds of food distributed to 315 individuals. The next produce market is February 10th, 23 from 4 to 6 p.m.
Awesome, thank you. On to administration.
Submitted my monthly report to the board, just some of the highlights, and of course this first one's not a highlight, but in case you hadn't heard, the groundhogs have determined we have 6 more weeks of winter. So like Dave might have to be out salting and plowing a little longer than we were doing.
Phil, how does
I'd
that?
hope for, so, both groundhogs agreed, both Buckeye, Bill, Buckeye, something or other, and Bill, a guy out in Pennsylvania, so that's up 6 more weeks for it. Let's start with the retention, the records retention for the building / code compliance. I had a brief conversation with this officer, Steele, today about maybe looking at how we determine how long we keep those items, because right now it's based off as soon as the property has changed ownership. So what that basically means, we have to go in and we have to pull up every property and see if the property has changed ownership. So there's a lot of files to go through and try to determine that. So for next week, we're going to try to determine if there's a way to change that to maybe having them for so many years. So that we can then sort them more by year, and we can get rid of them that way versus having to go in every year and checking all the properties and see if there's been a change of ownership. So it's kind of a tedious process. I don't think it's been done in numerous years. A lot of the documents are from 2014, 2015. So it's tedious, but
I apologize, I missed the topic sentence. What properties are we talking about?
the records retention
Yeah,
for code compliance and zoning.
those properties. Okay, thank you, that was,
So those records, we're pulling them up in the auditor's website and seeing if they've changed hands from the date of the citation, if you will.
so, an existing record that got a citation for having its grass too long, was under ownership of a particular individual at a particular time, and you're worried about updating that?
Well, right now, the record retention says it can be disposed once the property has changed hands. So the only way to really determine that is by going to the auditor's website, look at the transfers of property, and then if it has transferred, I'm going to be setting it off for shredding. If it hasn't, then we need to keep it.
So I'm, of the mind that we ought to change what the schedule says and make this whole process easier with a time frame. Because we do not have an obligation to create a public record, which is what we're doing now by going and reestablishing ownership. So I would suggest that you consider just finding a decent time frame. I mean, certainly if I got cited 3 years ago for my lawn, nobody's gonna care if,
And that's
how that ownership thing might impact repeat offenders is really the only question, I would think.
And that's a conversation I had briefly with fiscal officer Steele today that we're going to follow up on next week to see if that's standard language for this type of document, or if it's determined by us. If it is determined by us, then yes, I would recommend that we kind of do it by year, like keep it for 2, 3, 5 years or whatever. Then that way we can sort the documents by date. So then we just go in and pull that date and send it off to shredding. Right now, we'll probably have to go through them all and determine if there's been any change of ownership,
So how does that affect what we just did?
So some things are set by law, so an older version, we revised the retention schedule for police in general. I was aware that the code department had not purged, that I know of since I've been here. So it's not totally surprising that we're seeing this bottleneck. And I have to loop back and see if there's, so when I brought up, we used to have former employees files indefinitely. Then I found that the law said you can have them 30 years after they retire. So sometimes there's just, it's not our choice, and then some things are our choice. So Mr. Huffman brought this to my attention today. It's probably worth pausing to let Melissa and I look into what schedule, if we could tweak that and make it less arduous, we should. And if that means another, I don't think we have to have another commissions meeting, but we could. So then what would happen is just we would change the schedule, which would be changing the date. Let's say it's 3 years after the citation of tall grass and we can purge it. That seems reasonable to me. As long as the template and laws say that that's something we're allowed to do, then we would just revise that schedule. And all of these things, we send them off to the Historic Connection, then they green light or thumbs down your revision of the schedule. And either way, lots of paperwork is gonna be coming to me, to our office, and then we will also submit we'd like to shred these things. So it's a two-step process, the schedule and then the shred list or purge list. And both those lists have to go through the Historic Commission first. So, it's tedious, but it's good that we're doing it. And it's good that, admin helping is jumping in because there was just such a backlog.
Piggybacking off of that, I just went to the Ohio Township Association conference, and I think I was learning that one of our responsibilities is we have to do an inventory list every single year. Would this kind of be a part of that?
When you do the inventory list, that is a record. So, there's lots of things that create records. Annually, the township's responsible for doing an inventory list. And then we usually turn that over to our insurance agency, and then they sort of break down per department how much our annual insurance is gonna be. But that inventory list is a record.
And it's usually more tangible items, like the vehicles, backhoes, desks, computers, things.
It's not really related to record retention other than the fact that it too is a record, but it doesn't really influence this
Okay.
particular process.
Do we, so I don't really remember doing that last year, maybe I just wasn't a part of it, and I apologize for, missending it, but, what is our process, and when do we usually do that?
So it's due in January every year. It's oddly enough a responsibility of the board. The department heads are used to doing it as sort of a well-oiled machine.
Okay.
But I do have a nice OTARMA or OTA calendar in my office that says something like January 7th, the annual inventory list. So we've never concretely said, that I know of, at least for the general, let's say $500 value and up. We're not doing an inventory list of staples and paper clips, but obviously vehicles, bulletproof vests, things like that.
Okay.
It's just the rubber meets the road for us when we do our annual insurance thing with OTARMA. So that's usually OTARMA says, give me your list of stuff, we send it off to them, then they send us back an annual bill, and then I ask them to break it down by department.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
So more to come on that. Did reach out to the Ohio Historical Society based off our last meeting's discussion about trying to come up with markers for the township. I'll have to set up some sort of appointment to go in and meet with them and actually physically see the documents. What I'm finding is the electronic online copies are just kind of giving you the basic information, but not in-depth stuff. So someday perhaps Deborah and I will be going to a historical site and kind of do a deep dive on what they might have that could help us with submitting something next month. Handbook updates based off our last meeting, FMLA research, which we'll get into here shortly. Attended a Rapid 5 meeting. That's a pie in the sky project being headed up by Dr. Amy Acton to try to look at our river corridors and how we can make those river corridors more accessible to our residents. There's 5 organizations that came up with conceptual ideas for each corridor. So it's kind of a fiscal officer's deal, and Public Works Superintendent Medley also wants. It was a kind of a charrette where we kind of provided information at per table and everything like that. So there's a few more meetings coming up on that. And then the Northern Lights proposed use for the back where Mr. Bills was. And kind of researching that, communicating with the county our hopes and desires of if that project should get built. The application was canceled and it's going to be coming up at the end of February, I think February 28th or 22nd, something like that. So I'll plan on attending that at least remotely to see what's going on with that.
Is there, I ever a point in that process where a letter from the board would be helpful to you in terms of our wants and desires when we're talking about these kinds of things? Or do you feel well heard when you go?
I actually, county sent concerns off to the applicant, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Applicant did call and we kind of went through those items as well.
Okay,
So.
so it's working. Okay, thanks.
While you were speaking about that, I know we talked about closing that off. Yesterday, as an example, Lieutenant McCoy was sitting there yesterday at the stop sign right behind the one house. Camaro with 3 young folks that were in school yesterday, about 50 miles an hour, came down Walford through the stop signs and hit a pole right there at the shopping center entrance. So,
I'm gonna be honest, based off my conversation, the closing of Walford probably won't happen. They're kind of saying they have contractual agreements with the tenants to somehow
Right.
have that access.
We've been chasing this for a really long time, and we have been in conversation with county engineers for a very long time about improving the intersection, and that, I think, is the path that we have to keep on. Because they have promised us traffic studies, they have promised us evaluation for roundabouts, they have promised all kinds of things and not followed through with them. And I think we just need to keep it in front of them every conversation we're having for other purposes, when you guys don't want that intersection.
But there's a proposed redevelopment of that back square.
Yeah, that Mr. Bill's and a little bit to the south of that. Proposed use of the storage units, which is
You don't need no more?
kind of a good use for that property. You aren't really gonna get too much retail back in there because you don't have visibility. It'd have to be a destination type place, a bowling alley. So they're looking for storage units.
Okay.
Moving on, the employee handbook definition of immediate family, I provided the trustees the last meeting was asked that I look in to see what the FMLA definition of it was, and the FMLA calls out parents, son, daughter, spouse, and loco parents, which personally I don't think that covers enough in regards to funeral leave. So if you guys just want to look over the documents, first page is what's actually in the employee handbook, the second page is the FMLA, and then the fire verbiage and the police verbiage. You just want to shoot me something, and I'll put together something for the next meeting. If you want to move forward with any changes, if not, then that's.
Can we just take the temperature of the board right now, and, is there, would there be any objection to adding the in-law piece and doing like a 1 day instead of a 3-day bereavement leave, similar to, I think that's similar to fire language? So that we're adding that in and expanding our present designation to cover the in-laws. That was really the question, right?
Well, in-laws, yeah, and then if like aunts and uncles and maybe step parents, step spouse, so whatever, could be maybe the one day. What I can do is I can kind of take the verbiage from the fire department, add in-laws to the employee handbook, and then the 1 day thing from the fire department, and then send that out for review and further discussion at the next meeting.
I just kind of have a question. I'm not familiar with in loco parentis.
It's,
acting as parent guardian.
I liked Matt's idea. For me, it would be easier to see exactly how it would read instead of like piecing things together.
so your suggestion is adding in-laws and then kind of taking the 1 day version from the fire.
Yeah, instead of the whole, I personally see some sense in instead of the whole 3 days for the, once we get outside of the immediate family, if we're gonna get, some more time for those folks, I'm not sure that the whole 3 days is necessary, but I'm certainly open to hearing conversation about it. I like the fire language where they did 1 day for some of those kind of further out things.
And also, I think it would be good to cover in loco parentis, because what if somebody was raised by a guardian that isn't necessarily a parent? then that would be, if that person passed away that raised them, I think that that would be something that would wanna,
Or, yeah, I agree. So, okay. I'll put something together and send it out. Obviously, you can't have the discussion via email, but if you wanna review it and everything and shoot emails to me, answers, responses to me or whatever, I'll have, something more concrete for the next meeting then.
thank you.
And the last thing was the audio. It was suggested I reach out to the Berkshire Township because they had the, audio equipment that IT Made Real recommended or suggested. It's included an email that was provided to the trustees as well that, they have approximately 2,500 square feet as their town hall. They seem to think that the equipment works well for them. Looking at the wall of Township Hall, about the occupancy and everything, it looks like Township Hall is about 1,806 square feet, so it's smaller. So I thought I might reach out to IT Made Real and see if there's a way to test it, like borrow it for a meeting or whatever, and see how well it might work.
Kind of random question, does that 1,800 square feet you just quoted include are you talking about here?
Yeah, I'm just on the west side.
So does that include the like open window up there?
It's floor space, so like basically the square, it's
Where
not.
you would occupy, where a person would occupy, so basically all.
Okay. Cause like I know that a lot of sound travels up, so I didn't know if that would cause issues or not. Or maybe something that we should consider.
Yeah. It does, it just isn't measured in the square footage, it's vertical, you
Right.
know, so the square footage is the floor.
It's not the cubic, I guess.
Right.
if
Are you
will.
talking about asking if there's a vendor out there who will get this to us for a test drive?
Well,
Or, I don't really want to be in a situation of borrowing it from Berkshire Township if we don't have to be, but we're talking about a vendor.
I wasn't going that far.
Good.
I was just gonna go see about, seeing if IT Made Real might have access to the equipment to see if we could use it for
A test run?
a meeting. So that'll be my next step for that.
Their answer is no, then I would approach vendors directly, just say, we're interested, we need a dry run, obviously, and see if they're gonna just let us do it that way, if they wanna make a sale.
Perfect. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Chief Brayden?
I had sent out a monthly report earlier, if you might have any questions into that. Move on to the second item then. Request a motion to hire Joseph Hilliard as a probationary full-time firefighter paramedic at step 1 of the collective bargaining agreement, pending physical exam, drug screen, and psych assessment, effective February 20th, 23, to be paid from Fund 2111-220-100 and 2281-230-100.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Serum?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Justburger?
Yes.
Last, we'd like to request a motion to hire Alyssa Williams as a probationary part-time firefighter paramedic at $20 an hour effective February 3rd, 2023, to be paid from Fund 2111-220-100 and 2281-230-100.
So moved. Second?
Trustee Serum?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Justburger?
That's all we have, thank you.
Chief Jones?
You had a monthly report, sent that out to the board. So one thing I'd like to add to that, actually came in today. The Ohio State University Police, we are redoing our mutual aid contract with them to include special duty details, where we will be working directly for Ohio State instead of through Columbus Police or Sheriff's Office. In doing so, we had to redo the mutual aid contract, so the legal counsel sent that over today, and I copied that to Matt and Julie as well for her review. Once that comes back, we'll put that in front of the board for approval and get it back to their legal. So moving on to my second item, I'd like to request a motion to hire Dylan Struble and Taylor Foster as part-time officers effective February 3rd, 2023 at the current part-time rate to be paid from Fund 2081-210-100.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jasperger?
Yes.
Just for me, so does that mean that if there was some sort of an emergency, for example, over on this side, that Ohio State would be the kind of potentially the first responder if it wasn't to be able to have somebody come over from the other side over here versus Columbus?
So we don't use Columbus over here. We have OSU, Upper Arlington, Grandview. Typically, right now, we kind of use Grandview because they are the closest in Arlington. OSU, because their numbers have kind of been cut back, that's why we're reaching out to other agencies to help out. So I talked to their chief at our chief's meeting last week. They're bringing officers in from like University of Toledo Police Department, other universities coming in to help out on campus themselves. So we had this in the past, back in the early 90s. I used to work the football games all the time. And then here for the last few years, it was either the Columbus or the sheriff's office that would reach out and bring people in. So this is working again directly with OSU. There were some legal issues that came up in the late 90s with us. In the special duty, those issues have been resolved, and there's a FOP thing more than anything. So their legal counsel has drafted a new mutual aid that would then cover this. We also have them, in Clinton Township, as university police officers, they can come in our direction into the township that meets the west side of the campus over here. So that's never really been an issue, just kind of updating things and getting up to par with the legalese more than anything.
Thank you.
Do they get in this building? Okay, because I once in a while see one of them sit down and back or something.
No, they have one guy, I think he comes over here and smokes sometimes because he can't smoke
okay.
on campus. But no, they don't have
Right.
access to the building.
Police protection.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, I've already submitted a monthly report to the board on this township basis. I have on them, the department's been cutting back some of the brush in the alley since we're kind of in that time of the year where we don't have a whole lot to do other than once they're on one for a week for it to plow snow. So we've been cutting some brush back, getting that moved back so we can get in there and start working on some of these alleys and get some stone in there once the weather breaks. We've had 3 snow events since the first of the year. We've used about 40 ton of road salt. The season, we've used about 30 or 63 ton overall for the season. After the first snow event of the year, we had some hydraulic issues with some of the trucks, hoses and couplers, and got them replaced. Deb and I worked on the MS4 annual documents for the county to be turned in, and with her help, I appreciate that at the beginning of it, with a lot of the publications and things like that, we have to submit all that together. So that's done. The county sewer was working on Brandon Street, and they was bringing in some heavy equipment, what have you, and on Brandon and Pay, they noticed one of the grading on the catch basin was kind of cockeyed a little bit. So when they were investigated, and everyone's been traveling with the big trucks off of Brandon, they were cutting that corner pretty tight there, and they're falling down off into that catch basin, and they busted the top up. So we got with the county, they give us a pretty decent price to replace that. They went in, they put a heavier top on it, milled the road, the inside corner, laid some new asphalt around that catch basin, so when the truck and trailers come around there, they kind of roll in on top of that catch basin instead of dropping on it. So hopefully that will work out great. And I don't know if you noticed, we went around and changed the flags after that one windstorm here a couple weeks ago. We tore the flags up pretty good. We replaced the American flags at the buildings, and had Matt order some new Tree City USA flags, so that they've been replaced in good shape now. That's it for the monthly report.
Hey, welcome back. flags just reminded me of are there any more road banners to be had that we still have from our last order? There's like none on Kinnear, I don't think.
I'm thinking there's just a couple if there is.
I must have missed them today.
I think we had extras.
But we do have extras, that's something we can work on in the
Yeah.
spring.
Okay. Thanks.
Were there some there originally?
I had to come this way to go to an Arlington school this week, and it was early in the morning, and I was just looking out of curiosity. I did not see one. It doesn't mean it wasn't there, so.
I thought there was one down here on the right. Maybe not, I thought there was, right along the pound homes right there.
Yeah.
And next thing I have is, discussion about a new leaf collector. I know when I started this position a little over a year ago, the crew had concerns about the two leaf collectors we have now. The oldest one is, I believe, a 2010 model, so it's 23 years old. There was issues with both of them. Late summer, I brought them into the shop and worked on them. Had some hydraulic issues, some wiring issues, and I ended up getting one of them running, and it's the oldest one. The newest one, they picked up some metal and went through, and I don't know whether it's destroyed the trans coupler or the foot coupler, or it's knocked the bearings out of it, or the shaft's bent. I don't know, but you should be able to spin the fan by hand. You can't even spin it by hand. You start it up and the trans coupler it just starts smoking. So to purchase, back then in 2010, I think we paid just under $30,000 for that unit. We're looking at one that the operator can ride on, and he has a joystick, and the hose has more reach than just walking. When you walk behind the one we have now, you have to manually move it, and it's a pretty stiff hose, so you're restricted on how far you can move. So we gotta have the guy operating the hose, the guy in the truck, and two guys raking the leaves, because we can't reach everything because of the mobility of it. Where if we got to ride on one with a hydraulic control and arm, we can make a wider swath. And I think if we go that route, we can eliminate one person. We're still gonna have one person with a raker at the head, walking along just to get the trash out of the leaves. If it wasn't for the trash, we can eliminate two people. And I got two quotes, and it's just around $90,000 for each of them. So I got one made yesterday, a quote. It's a little more expensive, but there's things that it has that the other one does not have, or it's an option. And with the option, the first quote would be exceed the second quote if we added the options. But this is something, if you want me to pursue it, I can pursue it. If not, we can deal with what we have. And I may be able to take the second one we have and tear it apart this summer and see if I can't repair it. But if it's that coupler, that's probably $3,500 just for the coupler.
Yeah, couplers are expensive, I remember when my dad was not.
It's like, instead of a hand clutch, it's like a torque converter.
Mhm.
So we may end up having, maybe $10,000, $15,000 in repairs if it's more expensive than that. I know the fan is chewed up pretty bad in it.
Sort of seems worth it at least to find out.
Yeah.
To at least take a look and find out.
This should have, they don't make, that company's no longer,
Mhm.
so finding somebody to work on.
How much, do you reckon we spent on equipment on Public Works this past year?
The truck was unexpected, but we bought the truck last year. I think they spent like 40 or 50,000 on the salt barn. The more recent leafer we bought, I feel like 2 years after I came here. I can't remember exactly, and it doesn't matter either way, it's broke right now. So this is certainly a,
Well, there was another real big piece of equipment, what was it?
the stuff for your truck, the,
Zero turn mower.
the zero
Is that
turn
what you're
mower,
talking
and the gas tank for your truck.
Yeah,
Tractor backhoe, that something big, was there not something pretty big?
the backup, that's about
Backhoe.
340,000.
Not a small item.
and around 50 some for the truck and equipped. I think 58,000 for the salt barn foundation.
I feel like saying something, we just looked at this like last week, and it was some whopper number, like 191,000 or something. So we should kind of write this down and go
And
down
that's
that
not
rabbit hole.
including zero turn, which we'll talk about that, so it's right about 200,000.
Probably around
Close to.
200,
Yeah.
quarter million, whatever, yeah.
This is certainly, it's like our residents really love the leaf collection, but it just pains all of us how expensive it is. And we had a brainstorm about trying to do an educational video. I don't think anybody, if our residents were just more careful about what's being put at the curb. Either way, we should probably just try to reduce the metal being in the leaves. It's an accident, but it's a very expensive accident for the township to absorb.
In the leaf collector we've got now, one issue I see with it, it's offset from the truck. So everything hangs off the right side. And we get into these tight spots where there's cars parked on both sides of the street, it's, you can't get everything pulled in far enough sometimes, you gotta back up and re-maneuver to get through some of these areas. Where the new ones are kind of more streamlined, and you do have an option that you can offset the tongue on them now, but the new ones pretty much track behind the truck.
I'm just concerned of like overall how much is happening with equipment in general. And Dave, it's not you, because when Corey came on board, we had the same phenomenon. Every time there's like a new guy, we got a whole bunch of new stuff we need to buy. And so I think at the very least, what we need to do is consider getting a plan together about looking down the road. What is some sort of rotation that makes sense about equipment? And what are we looking at, you know, in the next 5 years that we might not know about right now, that's also kind of something else that we want to plan for and stuff. I think rather than a piecemeal, that would seem to make more sense to me, because it's been a lot, and this is a lot more.
Yes.
And we've got a road resurfacing priority off in the distance, and so, you know, that's just, there's a lot to consider, I think, so.
And that's why I'm bringing this up now. I do have a start of trying to do something, maybe a 10-year rotation on, and what can go out 10 years. I know Corey, he had for last year to replace the wood chipper, which wood chipper's in pretty darn good shape. So I withdrew that last year. That's something we did not buy. That may be something he was thinking about that was supposed to be replaced. Okay, it was supposed to be replaced last year and it did. Just like dump trucks, instead of spending $90,000 to replace a dump truck, we're probably gonna be looking at $130,000 to replace dump trucks. Just because the cost of steel and everything. Just something to, as we move forward. And once I get the paving stuff down pat, I'm gonna jump on to the 5-year plan for capital improvement.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that revenues are pretty good for your department generally. I mean, we're not usually talking about a levy for you guys. I mean, gas prices being what they are, et cetera.
And that
At
could
least
change
it's
in the
not
next few
painful,
years.
yeah.
What do you think is the life expectancy if we don't act now on the leaf collector?
I wouldn't be afraid to run it a couple more years. It's just I'm trying to free up a man so we can do more than just leaf collecting. I can get out of the office and do something with it if I have another guy.
Dave, we can hire another guy for cheaper than the leaf collector.
That's something you and I
Right.
talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Question, the reason we're having these problems is because people are not doing what they're supposed to do when they put out the leaves. I mean, I walk Griffin and I see these huge big branches and everything else in with the leaves. I don't know whether it would be worth it to send out a letter to everybody in the township specifically saying, when you put your leaves out, make sure that there's nothing in it but leaves. And if there is, we're not picking up your leaves until they're cleaned out of all debris. And as far as you want your leaves picked up, make sure your cars are out of the way, or we can't get to the leaves to pick them up. I mean, at some point, the people have to be responsible with doing the right thing. The township can't afford to keep replacing stuff, because people are just being careless.
I agree.
And I don't know whether it would help or not, maybe it's worth a waste of time, I don't know, but, I mean, I noticed a couple times, as a matter of fact, I think I called over one time and said that this one pile of leaves on cells, I said, if they try to pick that up, I said, there are branches this big around in there with all those leaves and stuff, and it's just mind-boggling.
There used to be little cards that like, we can't chip this because it has roots, for example, that got left at the residence.
Right.
Do we have those for leaf piles that are not up to snuff?
We do have door hangers for that, and if it's excessively piles with brush and stuff in it, they won't pick it up and they'll put a door hanger on.
Okay, well,
But
maybe
most of the time-
maybe that'll work, but I mean, let's get plenty of those, and don't hesitate to use them, I
Right.
mean, if it's,
Maybe they
it
need
goes
to
on
be
100 houses, too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
But
You know,
I agree.
Have the guys be a little more picky about using those a little more often, perhaps.
Yeah, they go to the trash out and leave the trash there in the yard, so you think they would,
Yeah.
would get the hint on that
Yeah.
we don't take the trash.
Well, here's just a question, just, off the top of my head. If somebody backed out of their driveway, didn't see your equipment, and struck one of our vehicles, their insurance would be liable, right? I mean, the very least we can do is say, we're not picking it up. I mean, and the very most that we could say is, you damaged a piece of township equipment. So, I would think leaving a door ticket is, pretty small.
Yeah, they probably left half a dozen last year.
But you might not know if there was a railroad spike, like there are railroad spikes in my backyard. I don't know why, I think I would notice it if I was raked it up, but it's possible for your folks to shovel something in and not notice,
Yes,
probably something less dramatic than a railroad spike.
I think it was a small vise, about 5-6 pounds
Wow.
of chunk of steel that it actually sucked up.
So I wouldn't be a bad neighbor if I'm poking my neighbor's leaf piles.
This guy
That'd be
just says
weird.
how strong that suction is.
I know, maybe we need to buy a big magnet.
Either way, I think we'll do a public,
I could probably make money for this.
education thing, whether we plug through this year with your one leafer, if the board gets comfortable purchasing a really nice new leafer, either way, I think we'll do a public re-education about, it's a huge privilege to have this leaf pick up.
Because they keep damaging this equipment, we can't afford to keep fixing
Right.
and fixing it. And
Obviously.
just flat out, at some point, if this keeps happening, we won't be able to pick up leaves anymore.
Yeah.
We won't have the equipment to do it.
And I know they're pretty hard to get a hold of. Right now I have access to 2 available. So if we gut deals the other 2, we'll probably get some money out of it. Just let me know if you just want to shoot it down or move forward with it sometime. I'm going to use the flexibility for my next item. Requesting a motion for purchase order in the amount of $10,618.95 to Buckeye Valley Equipment for the purchase of a zero-turn mower to be paid from line item 2031-760-740. And this is because we purchased this mower last year. A check was sent out in December 2nd. The check can't be found. They haven't received it. It hasn't cleared the banks yet. So my suggestion would be that we cancel that check and we have a new one to send, I'll hand deliver it to him tomorrow, but that's why he gets paid for something we've had probably since November.
Do you have enough in that line item from first quarter temporary appropriations to make this purchase order at this time?
Yes.
Without amending? Yes?
Do we have the check already? Because we have to sign it before you can give it to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of the.
This was approved last year, it's just a weird thing that the check must have been lost in the mail, so we're sort of redoing this PO, and kind of lucky there was enough in the appropriations to cover it.
So moved.
Excellent. Trustee Zero,
Yes.
Trustee Grimm,
Yes.
Trustee Jasper.
Yes.
just a note on that, if we decide to move forward on the leaf collector, we may have to adjust the permanent appropriations for this year.
It's just part of the fun.
I haven't heard from another trustee. What I would like to move forward with is you finding out more about what's wrong before we have more discussion, but that's me and I'm not hearing from others yet.
Then what I have next is discussion about the road resurfacing plan. I know I sent trustee.
I don't think we made a motion, Justin, do you have anything?
No, I have a motion.
No, we voted on the PO for the Buckeye.
Need a motion.
But what are we gonna do about the leaf collector? I mean, are we gonna have him research or what do you think?
I don't care. Right now, I don't really care.
I think you should just voice what you like him to do. I don't think we have to make a decision tonight, but he's just looking for a direction from the
I think
board.
what Jane said was, it was just, she's the only one that said anything. So Dave is just waiting for direction for at least one other trustee to make yes, do research, no, whatever. I'm neutral right now.
And investigating, what, like, would this mean, like, taking it to a shop and seeing what the shop says, or what would that look like? What would James' proposed plan for you look like?
I could check around and see if they could work on it that has a bit more knowledge about them to find out what I could do myself. And it's gonna be time consuming, is bring it in the shop, tear the back half of it apart, see why the fan's not turning, eliminate as much as I can to see if it's the foot coupler or not. If it's a foot coupler, it probably needs to go to the shop yet.
So would you rather him research that, or would you rather him research a new leaf collector?
Stop asking me, please.
I
I just said, I'm neutral right now.
It's your call.
Are you okay with him finding out what he can find out? And then we're either presented with it's gonna cost us $10,000 just to fix this thing, or here's how much a new one will cost, but we'll just know more. Would that-
That's
is that-
fine.
Is that okay with you? Is that-
Yeah, if you're fine, I mean, I don't wanna take too much time away from your schedule, but if you're comfortable with that, then sure.
Then by next meeting, have an answer, have a request a purchase order or not at the next meeting.
Okay.
Is there a time frame on the quotes that we do that?
Bigger the better, right now. The one company ordered extras and they're all reaching out to get them. The one company was 2 years out because they could not get motors in trees. He's secured a bunch of engines, so now he's making them. And he said if we get on here fairly soon, we can probably have delivery by August.
I just know a lot of times with quotes, they have 30 days, 90 days.
Yeah, but by the next meeting, we should be able to. And we may even do it, you know, if you want me to look into it, I can do a trade-in on it too. See if they want the working ones and trade-in.
You should just bring us any options you can think of that we can take a look at.
Okay, appreciate it.
Sounds good.
The next I have is discussion about road surfacing plan. I've spent a lot of time on this. What I ended up doing this time was just breaking the township down into 7 sections. I don't know if everyone's received and I got the PCI rating of each section. If we do these by sections, you're gonna have various ratings, and I'm trying to break it down and give you the sheets. I'll have to try to get them out to you in the next week or so, so you can see all the poor conditions, fair conditions. I got this one. This is all of our failed and poor roads to give you tonight, the list of them. This is be a list of our poor to failed roads, so it'll have the 3 rankings on them, and look at it. And then we have, then I send you, I don't have it attached where the pricing is for each sections. if that's how we wanna tackle this.
I think we had talked yesterday about the differences between, mill and fill, or, I'm so sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head what the other one was called. And you were saying that we could do mill and fill because that would be cheaper, but then we would probably have to work on those roads again in 5 years.
That would be the micro surfacing,
Microsurfacing,
which
okay.
I put to the board, in front of the board here last meeting. That's an option too, that we could do a couple sections to kind of put them out of the way for the next 5-7 years while we work on the mill and fill in some other areas. But I just had it broke down just in 2 areas. This plan here, I got the whole township broke down into 7 sections. But with that 7 sections, if we wanted to do a 10-year plan, say 1 year we hit one of them ones that's over $300,000, the next year we might not have to do, we just don't do any paving that year, just to have a recovery year. Then we get into another section. So it gives us time, we might get a 12-year plan. But it gives us some breaks in between. But it looks like we have communities, we're hitting this community, this area. And like I said, I had the prices on some of these. I think our largest one was a little over 306,000 to do a mill and fill. And them numbers, the formula I'm getting from the county, there's numbers that's not in there, that's demobilization, mobilization of the equipment, a full depth repair. There's no striping in that formula. Over here on the west side, if we mill out the speed bumps and put the speed bumps back in, that's not formulated in that either. And there's no contingency, I didn't put no price in there for contingency. And that's based on $110 a ton for the asphalt. The larger we do, the cheaper the tonnage will be. The less we do, if we just hit the poor roads or the failed roads, we might be paying $130 a ton for the asphalt. But I'm still waiting on the county to give me what his cost analysis is for the west side, so I can do a little bit of comparison, to see how close I am to what they're going to come up with. But the county commissioners probably put a little damper in what his projects was going to be, so he's got to rework all his projects. He wanted to have everything finalized by January 20th, so he still doesn't have everything finalized in his projects. If it's something the board likes, breaking into 7 sections, or there's a different way you want me to do it, break it down even finer.
Well, one question is there not a reason to mill some roads and surface others? I mean, if we have these geographical areas, whatever they are, given neighborhood X, isn't it realistic to believe that some of those roads would be better to do the surface treatment on, and some of those roads need the milling, rather than milling the whole 9 yards, need it or not?
When you do the milling, and when I say milling, there's variations to it. It could be a complete mill across the street. It may just be the street's in really good shape or fairly good shape, so we just edge mill and maybe reprofile where we need it for drainage. When you do mill and fill, that's like the Cadillac. That's going to be your top treatment, your best treatment.
Right, that's why I'm asking if we wanna do it automatically in a whole geographical area, as your spreadsheet seems to suggest, this last piece of the plan.
The benefit of that is we get the top notch. From there, we can do preservation of the asphalt and different treatments throughout the life of that new asphalt. Right now, we got some old asphalt out there that just basically, it just needs milled and filled. We can cap it with something, but it's not gonna last the best. Now, we do the cape seals or the micro surfacing and piece it in and out of them streets, and it's probably gonna cost us more if we just don't do a whole area as one treatment. Does that make sense? Either we.
That's the part that does not make sense to me, to tell you the truth. like, let's just do the west side because I just drove here, right? So when I come down, say Hess, Gerard, whatever, crack ceiling all over the place, you know, not that great looking. Come down Chambers, it's like, why would I mill and fill this road?
That's a
Chambers
county road.
Circle, oh yeah, buddy, they need it big time, right? So I mean, it's very, so I don't know, I'm just trying to like logically get through my head, why would I mill every single road, including ones that are still really decent, that are don't seem to need a lot, so, that's what I'm not really getting.
If we, say if we do 7 of the roads over here, or say we do 3/4 of the roads over here is mill and fill, and 25% of them we can do a cape seal or microsurfacing. You're gonna pay a premium for that microsurface. Then you're gonna get up close to what you're gonna pay. It's all about volume when you do this to get to the best price.
So if I do
And
mill
when you do the whole area, it looks uniform. If you do it all mill and fill or you do it all cape seal, it's nice and uniform. You're not gonna have residents complain, well, why didn't our road get what that road was? You know, that, it doesn't look the same. So if we get to the point where we do all mill and fill, we're starting off fresh, and then we can manage that asphalt through its life expectancy a lot better than what we're doing with stuff that's 20 years old, some maybe 30 years old. We're getting these neighborhoods to one grade. Does that make sense? We're going one grade, we're not piecing it.
Okay, I'll look forward to the next set of numbers, when we
Is
get
it-
them.
Well, I don't, I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that if you just do the mill and fill on all of them, it's probably a lower price than segregating it out.
Yes, because you're gonna have demobilization, mobilization costs for both applications, because it's not one company's gonna do it all. You're gonna have one company's gonna do the mill and fill, another company. Might be the same company, but you're gonna have a different group of people coming in, because they specialize in the different treatments.
So to kind of piggyback on what I think your concerns are, Jane, or at least what I'm interpreting is, why can't we just do like specific roads, but do all of the like level 9 roads in 1 year? Like, why can't we space it out in different locations? Why does it make such a difference if we just do one specific area?
And I got it broke down, and I got that for you tonight on these papers. What you're gonna have is, if you hit all the failed and poor roads, they're gonna have to load up their machines, take it across town or 4 or 5 blocks, 6 blocks down. They're not gonna track these huge machines down the roads. So they're gonna transport them, and you're gonna pay for every transport to every road. That's something I cannot calculate what that cost would be.
Okay. And then,
Instead of paying $110 a ton, you're gonna pay $130 a ton for the trucking,
okay.
or for the asphalt and trucking.
And you have only parts of certain roads that are.
And that's another thing too, if you got, there's 7 segments of this road and only 2 segments are poor or failed, you're gonna go through there, well, we're gonna just do this little section, skip this block, and do this little section. That's an issue I have with that. If you're there, get the most for your dollar and do the whole area, the whole street.
My own personal concern with that is, what does that time frame look like in each of these different sections, and how inconvenient would that be for the people living on those streets? Because if you're gonna do, say, a 4-block radius, you know, then how long of a time are those people not really gonna be able to access their homes?
Usually what they'll come through, and they'll do the milling, then they'll come and sweep it, and that may be one day, then a few days later, they'll come back and they'll do a tack coat and start paving. They'll put tack down, which they got no tracking tack now, but when the asphalt comes down, it vitalizes that tack, so it will adhere to the whole pavement. Usually, people can drive in and out of their driveways, they just don't want you sitting on the asphalt or sitting there turning your wheels, probably for the first couple hours, but after that, they're gonna have access to their driveway if medic needs to down through there, they're gonna come down through there. If you ever see it, they'll lay it out and they'll start rolling it, 15 minutes after it's laid down. Once it's rolled, then it usually doesn't hurt for somebody to drive across the asphalt.
Personally, I'm in favor of the different sections, just because I think it would be, more, cost saving for the township, but, obviously it's up to all three of us to feel confident and comfortable with the decision going forward.
And just for instance, we've got that area 1, roads north of Ferris Road. It comes out to, 306,000, a little more than that. The cost for the milling may be way down. I may be pretty high on that because it's all together. They usually charge by the day. So if they can get that done in 3 days instead of 5 days, that cost could come down $10,000–$15,000. That's where the milling and stuff, that's where you're gonna get the benefit of doing a large area or a close knit area.
Are these sections in any particular order of like what you would like to see done, or these are just?
I just picked them out. I got the PCI ratings, on them off to the side. I mean, it really doesn't matter to me how we tackle them, as long as we get something together and move forward. That's my concern. The other concern is where the funds is gonna come from and how much funds is there. That can dictate whether I need to make 10 areas, 12 areas. I don't, that's the part I don't know.
So, and follow-up question, that's a good point, Jess. The PCI, the lower the PCI, the worse the area is, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think our average PCI is like 58, and that's pavement condition index. And once we start paving these roads, you'll see that average index go up. And I think it'd be great if we had that up in maybe the 70s, mid-70s would be, I think would be great for the community. And I'm not sure if we're going to get that if we just do a Cape Sills at this time. Cape Sills on the surface.
So it looks like the way that these are organized, the very first one is the lowest, well, other than the alleys.
Yeah, I got one that's kind of these off streets that's out of the way. I would work with the county when they're doing paving areas close to them. I think I would piggyback on the county for them 3 sections of roads.
Because Chambers, for example, is county road. So couldn't we even ask them to do Chambers Circle if they were gonna be working on Chambers?
Yes.
And Chesapeake, which is way up that way.
Yeah, there's a section up there that Chambers that is ours, just a little section. So the county, if they pave it, they just may pave that anyways, so don't even bother with, because it don't make no sense to not do that. They may ask, hey, we may charge whatever amount to the township to take care of that section. I don't know how the county works with the townships here on that issues. But what I'm kind of looking for is giving you the information. It's up to the board to figure out where the funds are gonna come from and how much.
So you have something else for us this evening that you wanted us to take a look at?
Yes. This one here should cover about 3 miles of road. That's the fail forward
Thank you.
and very forward. Then this is the worst of the worst. In the end, you'll come up with a dollar figure. Like I said, that's just what I come up with. That's not looking at how much they have to travel to do it, to take care of it, the organization fee.
I didn't put them in the file.
We're going to try to have the same spreadsheet for the other roads, the other 7 sections.
Great.
I just ran out of time.
And thank you so much for putting all this together. It was great. You've done such a good job.
I believe that's all I have.
Thank you, Phyllis. Any other discussion?
I guess if we're not comfortable voting on it today, I do think from looking at this list, it would be good to consider moving forward with the first one, because that one is the lowest PCI, which is the roads north of Ferris. So if we can if we're not comfortable voting on it today, if we have any other questions that want to be answered, I think that would be a good section to go forward in considering this year, because we want to try to put together a plan if we're going to be executing this.
If the board agrees upon that, the next step would be to get hold of the county and let them know, and we'll try to piggyback on their quotes for the year. If not, we'll try to get hold of the engineer's office if we want to do it on our own and go out for bid that way, instead of getting the best price by going with the county.
So we would have to agree to move forward tonight to get like more accurate quotes?
From the county, yeah, this is something the county engineers would be doing, but what I'm doing here, trying to get this all worked out for pricing. The next step, if you want me to move forward, I'll go to Mark tomorrow I'll probably call him, if I can't get hold of him Monday, to say these are the roads that we'd like to put on the plan. He'll come up, he'll work on it and get a dollar figure.
And does that have to be an official vote?
Yes.
Well, I don't think it would have to be an official vote because we're not obligating funds.
Okay.
Just direct me to,
And you're just getting, it's more research as far as the county's concerned too, we're not
yeah, the county's
obligating
not,
ourselves with them.
no, the county's not, the county's
Right.
not gonna go off of my numbers. They're not gonna go pavement management group numbers. They're gonna take their field guys
Yeah.
out and they're gonna do it,
Yeah.
just like they did on the west side here.
Yeah, so
But just know what the dollar amount is on, well, that I have there is probably gonna be a pretty good ballpark. Just, I don't wanna waste his time, I don't, without you, the board knowing there is this, a little bit of commitment there to follow through with it. Does that make sense? We don't have to, but
I would like to see something done this year. And if we're going on over these sections, which one is the worst, that one would probably be the first one, which is roads north of Ferris. So that would be me, that would be my consideration.
I would be okay with you reaching out to the county for that section.
And I also think that the funding of this project would come out of the general fund.
We'll have a conversation about that when it's time.
we should get the budget committee together. With the department heads being here tonight, could we talk about scheduling that later this month?
Yes, I was actually gonna bring that up, next. I believe, Dave, you said that you have, Tuesday nights are not good for you?
the fourth Tuesday.
The fourth Tuesday? So could we do Wednesday, the 22nd? How does everyone feel about Wednesday the 22nd?
What time are you thinking?
It would have to be 6:30. That's the only time I'm available. Unless we want to do a Saturday, but I don't want to force people to work on Saturday. How do other people feel about that?
I'm good with that.
We'd be meeting here, was the brainstorm.
Yeah, so here would be kind of like the first meeting, and then hopefully we could put a projection up at a later date over on the other side with information.
So the 22nd at 38:20,
No, the 22nd,
Yeah, here.
here, 999.
the meeting would be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah. Wednesday the 22nd works for me. Bobby,
What?
we want to have a budget committee meeting Wednesday the 22nd at 6:30
6:30.
6:30?
Yeah. here.
I think I'm okay, I don't think I have anything that big.
Well, we would love other neighbors to come be part of the budget committee. It's not legally binding, it's just a chance for the department heads to review last year's numbers and give this board more of an input of what folks,
Let's see if I can get hold of some.
okay.
Right, so I'm comfortable committing to Wednesday the 22nd.
I think it works. And I don't know if we're gonna try to do these 4 times a year, I would say at least 2 times a year, so,
Yeah, well, we used to do every 3 months, so I don't know.
okay.
Yeah.
So department heads, if Wednesday nights works for you, maybe we'll make that what we do the next 3 meetings ahead, or if you guys wanna consider Saturday mornings.
Maybe we can finalize this with an email or at that first meeting.
Yeah,
That'd be
we could
great.
do that. I'm excited. We get to hang out more.
6 or 6:30?
6:30. I got up at 6 now.
That's the 22nd at 6:30, right?
Yep.
At 999.
Here or there?
Here.
Here, lucky for you, Bobby.
Yay.
I'm talking about budgets, there's an upcoming, Gen Z board, correct?
I think that same, wait,
Yeah, it just got canceled.
Yeah.
They move it.
no, it's the same day in the morning.
Same day.
Yep.
Is there gonna be a question presented to the board about where we can spend the monies for the roads? If we can
No,
spend-
that's not the JEDSI board's
Okay, that's
bailiwick at all, no,
okay.
that's just this team. Good news, less
Okay.
bureaucracy, it's just these 3
Okay.
folks.
We have a question about Jed Z funding, we'll be, consulting counsel on
Yeah.
that.
Okay, but it is coming up to ask them.
And the answer I can pretty much bet is in front of Jed Z parcels. It's not gonna be neighborhood.
No
it's not
connecting
residential.
streets or anything like that?
It's not residential.
There's supposed to be a Gen Z 101, I think, that's supposed to be. presented.
Yeah, about the document, I don't think we're gonna see that there either. But
Yeah.
that's the entire thrust of the Jed Z funds are for the commercial.
So how does that
Parcels.
work, like on Walford Road, you have a business there, it's in the Jet C, the little market.
That's,
So we can only spend the money right in front of his property, then it has to end? Wow. Even though that's traveled all the way to the northern lights?
The reality is there's gonna be very little that's gonna be commercial compared to the rest of the neighborhoods.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we have any appreciations?
I do. I'd like to thank Matt for inviting me to the, over Westville Parks for their meeting. It was very, very interesting.
I'll have to piggyback on that, I really enjoyed the Rapid 5 meeting that Mr. Huffman invited me to, and I pushed the Rapid 5 book on the police and fire chief. I'll look back to you too, Dave, but I'm happy to get these, even if they are pie in the sky dreams, in the hands of seasoned first responders, because it's just a different perspective. I'm gonna thank Deborah Smothers for her peppiness yesterday with it being Township Day, that we only had 1 resident come, but it was a good effort. And
Two.
Okay, I didn't hang out all day, you got me. So, folks that, Deborah put a lot of work into just trying to get the word out, and, I found some spirit for it.
I also want to thank Deborah. I got really excited for these initiatives on Facebook for the monthly This is Human Relations Month. I think that that's a great way to try to get more community involvement. So I had sent out an email and I had CC'd Deborah on it about trying to drive a little bit more attraction towards our social media sites and trying to see if there are monthly increases on what we're doing. And she did send me those reports. So I appreciate all the work that you've done on just really trying to ramp up the way that we communicate with the people of our township. So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to appreciate Public Works guys for who knows how many mornings in the dark with salt might have had to happen here recently. I lost track.
I know, Mark, I should call. I'd like to throw out to code enforcement, PA Quigley. He's really stepped up working with police and fire in his position. One notable one, we have a sealed road, we've had people squatting in the house. He was able to find out the owner's been deceased for 3 years. No one knew that.
Wow.
Taxes haven't been getting paid, so he's working on that, and I think, Mr. Huffman, we were talking about that today, so he's really taking a big initiative. So it helps us get the squatters out, we've had some drug issues at that location, and, so he's really looking at that.
Does your office get a list of properties that are tax delinquent?
My office doesn't directly, but I bet I could ask, Carrie, the main contact of the auditor's website. She's probably tracking those things.
I should think we would want that and get it into Dan's hands every year, every quarter, whatever.
The property gives us money for doing cleanups on the past also.
Yeah.
We found out it was.
Chase down that revenue.
$4,400.
So that's a-
Usually the township meetings that they have for the county, I think that's when they hand out the delinquent taxes and stuff like that. Those are meeting nights, so when they attended, that's when that they are handed out.
Well, if it was a meeting with a piece of material, I'm sure it's available to us. Follow up on that.
Any other items?
That one there that you need to read, I guess.
Martha
Well,
thank you. Has been a resident since 1950, passed recently. She was 99 years young. I'd like to thank Lisa Austin Jones, who's one of our biggest social media fans, whatever, for sharing that information with us. I believe I did check the address and everything, and I think they were the first person's names on that particular parcel. There's no historical data, it's just it's all them. So, she, 99 years is a long time.
yep, it is.
Bobby?
Okay, I've got 4 things here. The first one is, we are really over here out of touch with what's going on in the township. Because we don't have any way of knowing, we don't have a sign like you have on the other side, and I don't want one like that, that's too big, but I was hoping maybe we could come up with some kind of a smaller sign or something that we could put out here, that we could let people know what's going on. I try to put stuff on Nextdoor and send emails, but I can only do so much, and they're not reaching that many people. And since we haven't had any civic association meetings for 3 years, I don't even know many of the people over here anymore. We've got a lot of new residents and all, and I don't even know who they are. So I didn't know if there's some way we could get some kind of a sign out here that we could announce the meetings or anything important, so we would know over here what's going on. Like I say, I will continue to put stuff on Nextdoor and send emails, but I'm not reaching as many people as I was hoping that I would.
So I'm sorry, are you thinking like an LED sign light on the west side?
Yeah,
Is it a
something like
smaller
it.
version?
Something that, well, I don't know if it can get a smaller portable thing or something that would do kind of the same thing as the sign on that side, but just not as big a sign, and
Right,
much
okay.
cheaper than that. Cause that's just outrageously expensive, and there's nowhere to put something that big over here.
I kinda like that idea, cause then we don't have to create the sandwich boards and put them out, we would have a resource that we could probably
Well-
calculate from the.
And the sandwich boards are down in the blockhouse, and there's no way I'm going out there in this kind of weather and put those sandwich boards together in that blockhouse and then stick them out. I used to come down here and do it in the meeting room and then get them out, but I'm not going down the blockhouse in this weather and fix those signs up and put them out. Plus the fact, I have a hard time anymore with my age and problems getting them into the trunk of my car and getting them out of the trunk of my car to put them up somewhere.
Yeah, we got a sandwich board on the west side that Deborah puts the information
Yeah.
on. And
I think you have one here somewhere, but I don't know. You used to anyway, I don't know.
But I mean, ideally, I guess if we were to move forward with something like that, I'd like to see if there's a way to have it tied in with the system we already have, so that we're just like manipulating one program instead of multiple programs, so.
Well, if we can find something, it would be really great, because we're really kind of, I mean, I'm not, because I come to the meetings, but most people over here are totally out of the loop of what's going on in the township. And we have a lot of new people, and a lot of young people that I think would, you know, if they knew about a lot of this, they would be willing to take part, because we have some new ones at the Halloween party. So, I don't know, we'll see.
Deb, we had talked about doing a welcome kit, didn't we?
I used to have one I had put together, and I quit doing it because the turnover was so bad, and I couldn't keep up with it.
Well, I'm just thinking about us doing a spring cleaning. We usually do them on the east side. Maybe we would want to do one on the west side. So that's something that trustee Sierra usually helps with. Maybe at our next meeting, we could announce doing a spring cleanup. I know April seems like a far time away, but it's another reason we're going to have the budget meeting here. I agree with you. There's just during COVID and whatever, we've been sort of hibernating too much over here.
Right.
So the more we can get people in this bay or in that building, the better.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about, but I don't know, because we haven't had a city association meeting, and I don't know where to go to have one, since we can't get in here, and I'm not going to the playground and do this, but I need to get together with the officers and some people to try to put some events together. I was thinking about maybe trying to do maybe a combination pizza bingo party down here, where we could order pieces, and then people could come and maybe pay $1 for a big slice of pizza and play bingo. Maybe even run a movie or something in that room for little kids, you know, just one night to do something like that, maybe a Saturday or Sunday night. But again, to try to arrange that, trying to call people on the phone or send emails doesn't work. I need to be able to sit physically down with people to talk about this and the ramifications and how to try to put this together. And right now, there's nowhere to go to do that, so. Okay, that's that. Next thing. The stop sign on the road, is it going north there at 9th?
My
Should we
house.
stop a three-way stop there? One on Rhoda going north. I don't even see a reason to have that stop sign, because everybody runs it, number one. Number two, those people in that, those guys in that house park their car right out in front of the house, right up against the stop sign, so you can't even see it. So it's actually kind of worthless there, and I didn't know, you know, maybe we could just get rid of that stop sign and let somebody hit somebody, and maybe they'll decide to park their cars in the driveway instead of out in front.
But then they'll take my car.
Not your car, their car.
Yeah, but
Well,
then,
she kind of.
but my parking parked there.
Yeah, forgot about that, sorry about that. Oh, well.
A lot of times those stop signs are done by the uniform, something or other that the county
Yeah.
engineer's office uses.
Well, see, and I don't know, see, this is why I wanted to talk to Dan. I don't know if he can do anything about that, or if Mike can do anything about that with them parking these cars out in front, right up against the stop sign. Because the Ohio Revised Code says you're not allowed to be within 30 feet of the stop sign. Well, they're right up against it.
The problem is that if they're in the easement, they're not in the roadway. It's not allowed.
See, and this is what's so irritating, because they've got that long driveway, they can park 10 cars in that driveway. They park 2 in the driveway and the rest of them out in front, right up against the stop sign and everything else. And then, like I said, people come and they just shoot right straight through that stop sign. Yeah.
I don't. I always stop.
I do too, but I walk Griffin and I'm watching people. Almost saw an accident tonight at Heston Cells. Some guy came down Cells and didn't even stop at Hess, just shot right straight across, and my car was coming north on Hess. Fortunately, it wasn't quite to the intersection yet, and I just held my breath. I thought, uh-oh. We're gonna have one here pretty soon. Okay. Yeah, and then the other thing was about still working on trying to be able to get into this building, to be able to use those rooms over there, the meeting room, the kitchen, and the bathroom, period. Don't care about the rest of it, just those 3 rooms. So we
You're
can have
looking for a
meetings.
building use policy over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the one other thing I have is Lennox Town Center. At this point, there's only one restaurant there, Bravo. Champs is permanently closed, Core Life is permanently closed, both gone. Isn't there something that we can be doing to talk to Casto or somebody to find out if they're making plans to try to replace those restaurants, or is there something else in there?
There's, plans for Champs to become another restaurant. And I just saw something today about Port Life getting turned into more of a retail shop instead of a restaurant.
Oh, that's one, I don't eat there, but I know a lot of the students did. So that's one less food place there. Because there used to be a Johnny Rockets there, and then they took that out to put that in, so.
What I've seen come across people in zoning, county zoning, is that a restaurant is supposed to go into the Champs former space, so that will remain a restaurant. But again, something just came through today where Core Life would be more of a retail shop instead of a restaurant.
Is there any way that Casper can do something about some of those outlots or something to get some restaurants or something in out there? I mean, there's all that parking out there that just goes to waste.
I did have a conversation about parking. They have agreements with a lot of their larger tenants that have so many parking spaces. So, that's the.
Well, the only one that really needs a lot of parking is Target. Nobody else does. Nobody else fills up any of their parking spaces over there. Men's Warehouse is gone now. Any idea what's gonna go in there?
Well, a mattress store, and I believe a cookie store.
Okay.
Are we gonna go to Crumble?
Possibly.
Not good for Rebecca.
And Men's Warehouse moved across the street for a while, and now they moved out of there and Vision Works is going.
I think they're in Kingsdale now. I saw them someplace. Where was I? I saw this one and I thought that must be where they moved. I thought it was Kingsdale, and I could be wrong.
Things are not saying big things are wrong.
Okay, well, I just think, we need to be in constant contact with the Casto company and stuff to keep up to date on what's going on with that shopping center and make sure things keep going in there.
There's very little that the township can do to drive private property use. I mean, he's a landlord, he wants his places rented, he's doing everything he can to get stuff in when it's vacant, for sure,
I know, but I think,
We don't really have
think the township could at
trouble
least
there.
talk to him and, find out what he's planning and if there's any plans or suggestions or stuff like that, because it is in the township and, we derive income from it, so I would think that we should be able to talk to him, just like, is anything happening with the Shaughnessy property yet? Has anybody talked to that guy to see what's going on there?
We're actually doing production in that.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like thankfully our township administrator has developed good relationships with these people, so thank you for doing that.
So, yeah,
Okay, that's all I have.
Surprisingly, production has started in that
I'm sorry, what?
All
facility. Production has
cases,
started
this is
in
a
that
Clinton
facility.
158 test. Good night.
Good night.
Nine. Must be 8 o'clock.
Right on time.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to
Sure.
adjourn.
Second.
Good night. Happy Valentine's Day. I don't know before that. checks, they really need that Buckeye check signed.
Spreadsheets.